Yeah, been building a server up, and it got me thinking. Actually, it's worth talking about these. Not going to talk about building a server. What I'm going to talk about is these things: hard drives. So if you're into computers these days, you're probably building with these devices. These are solid state drives. If you open them up, not terribly interesting inside. Basically just all ICs, flash type devices. But we're going to look at the more traditional hard drives. So we're going to concentrate more on the mechanical drives, the ones with the spinning discs and the moving heads. This one's the smaller type out of a laptop. They're about 2 3/4 inches in diameter. They can become quite standard now. But if we look inside one of these, you can see the actual discs, and then this one's quite an old one and has a number of discs on it. Inside it are just platters and our moving head here on top. Now, over the years they've got smaller, but the format has always kind of stayed the same. The coil for the voice coil for the moving heads, and the motor for rotating the disc platters as well. There's even little filters and things. So all the little parts have just become more and more miniaturized over the years. If you take a more standard 3.5 inch drive, which would normally be used even still today, and open it up, you'll find it's exactly the same inside one of these as well. There's always a hidden screw under the label just to be anti-tamper, and it's a case of trying to figure out where that is to get the cover off. And with the cover off, you can see again very similar arrangement. This one is the single disc in here, but again exact same mechanism with the voice coil motor and the heads moving on the drive surface. They also have a little park mechanism, and these ones actually use little permanent magnets to park, whereas they used to use solenoids before. So not only have the sizes been shrinking, but the density of data has been constantly increasing. If we go back a bit further again, this is a 5 1/4 inch. Zoom out a bit to see it. This drive from an IBM PC originally. Now this, sometimes you hear the term spinning rust, and indeed this coating on this disc is iron oxide as opposed to the more modern ones. I think that's a chromium plating on there, but the original ones were the same as you got on magnetic tape, so it had the brown kind of colour to it, and that was ferric oxide. Much larger heads, much bigger diameter drive, same arrangement with the voice coil motor, and a drive motor for the platters themselves. In this one, 1, 2, 3, 4 platters on that drive. Over the year there's been various interfaces to these. You can see the control board on the back of this, and the two connectors, data and control, and ESDI interface can be MFM, but there are other ones that are this type more commonly seen as the SATA, which you'll see, but there are others. This one here is a SCSI. It's quite an old drive, got the lid off it, but again same construction inside. They also always tend to have some element for filtering the air, so although it's sealed up, there's little filters built in to filter the air inside the drives as well. Because this isn't the end of the story, this is still quite a modern drive in terms of computing history. There are even larger ones. The drive before the 5 1/4 was the 8 inch, which is this size of platter. Again, ferric oxide coating at this stage. But let's have a look at the drive itself. So we've gone from this size to this. This is definitely from the kind of early mid 80s. A very large drive indeed, containing a number of these styles of platters. This drive was only 300 megabytes, so very small by today's standards, yet it is absolutely monstrous and weighs a huge amount. On the top we have the control boards, basically built with discrete logic here on this top one. I think these should all come apart. Our interface, the interface on this is SMD, which was an early one. It's just a storage module drive. And if I take the top board off, you'll find there are a number of other circuit boards inside here as well. Interesting how many wire ads are on these boards. Slightly more integrated, a couple of custom devices here, but again a lot of discrete logic, probably a lot of analog stuff in this board as well. And our power supplies coming on here. This takes quite a number of power supplies, 24 volts and a -12 and a 5 volt. That'll be a fair amount of current draw on these as well. So take that board out of the way. Now we're just on the top side of the drive itself, and I think this will lift off. Okay, standard filter, air drawn through and a filter on the lid there. And inside again we can see our platters here, and our heads are in this, and this is a very large voice coil motor at this point here. So you can see that that disc is out of there. So double-sided disc, and there are 6 platters in that drive. So double-sided 6 platters, and that only gives you 300 megabytes. The head arrangement, this block here shows you the heads out of one of these. So there's a head on its own here, I think for registration and positioning, but otherwise individual, the heads on either sides of the drive here, quite large heads by modern day standard. By comparison, this set of heads here and this set of head here, and we can be sure this will be in the order of gigabytes, and this is only in megabytes for that one. This still isn't the end of the story. There are larger drives and larger disks, and even this isn't the biggest platter. This is from a Winchester disk drive, and that disk I think is only 20 megabytes double-sided of data storage. Again, iron oxide coating on it. Very large machine. I used to have one of these machines, but they take up so much space, and I think the last one was rated at 500 watts to drive the thing. These were often fixed in the actual drive. There could be quite a number of them. The one like this came out of was just one fixed drive and one removable drive. So you can get a format with a kind of caddy that the one drive is removable in the system. And I've taken apart the lids again to just show that's just a standard drive inside, fixed into the cartridge, so that can be coupled onto top of the fixed drive and removed once data is written on it. So it's very handy. The need for storage devices that were removable was quite important. At the time there was either tape or that removable Winchester, until floppies were brought along. This is an 8-inch floppy drive as well. No intelligence on these drives at all. Disc slides in. This is a single-sided, there's a single head here, and once the disc's loaded it can be read. It's got a mains driven induction motor, so this ran continuously, and it's a very basic logic control on the back. Just to show that's the head, single-sided head, there's a solenoid here which allows the pressure to be applied to the head when it wants to read, and a stepper motor at this end here, which moves the head up and down through that screwed rod. So I say mains motor here. And that's the optical sensor to detect or for the registration of the disc. If I rotate this disc somehow, yeah, there's a little hole register lines up here, so it detects where the position of the disc is, so it can work out where the data is. So much technology in so many years, we've kind of gallivanted through everything there, so I hope you found that interesting.